Live in a second here. We are live. So sorry, guys. That was totally my fault. All right.
I'm going to give the breaking news again from Dave Isaac on Twitter, and that was Radko Gudas left Flyers practice with his sticks, took them all with him. So either he changed stick manufacturers or something's up.
Yeah. It could be nothing. Sometimes these things are literally nothing.
Yep.
We're going to start the show, and I'm going to do a quick phone call while you guys are on there for a second.
Okay.
My new.
Let's do the intro.
Ready? Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, February 21st, 2017.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeybuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday this time to fill you in the comings goings in the hockey world. And I'm going to let Mike and Russ talk for a second while I make a quick call. So I'll be right back.
Well, Russ, let's just talk about this Gudas thing, because here's a guy here. Of the players on Philadelphia that we thought were potentially the defensemen who were potentially going to be traded, like in a deal for a forward, it would have been one of the young defensemen like Sanheim or Moran. In a dump deal, in a sell deal, it would be Streit or Delzato or Schultz. Gudas never came up. Gudas just signed a long-term extension. So
it's not that long-term. I think it's 2 more years. And the thing is, look, at some point he's going to be replaced. If they feel like Sam Moran is really close, then there's your replacement. And so that could be what's going on here. Maybe somebody asked about him and then they pulled him. We don't know. But it doesn't shock me that somebody who's making a playoff run would have interest in him because, hey, you know what? He can be a physical force in certain games.
Yeah, Gudas has another 3 years at $3.35 million.
It's a cheap amount, though. It is.
It is, but I think that what mitigates his value is sometimes he makes really stupid plays. He's a borderline player who takes stupid penalties and is borderline in terms of getting suspended a number of times.
I think he could be a throw-in now. Like someone might be asking for him, and maybe he's the throw-in of a deal.
Right.
We'll see.
Sorry, focus. Focus. There we go. This whole thing, the Gudas thing, just came into focus. Symbolism. All right, so apparently the Flyers are saying no trade.
Okay.
Okay. The other little interesting news tidbit, and you can question how interesting it is. I know, Russ. In the world of the Maple Leafs, so it's interesting. Over the weekend, Brooks Laich, former Capital, who's been relegated to the Marlies, gave an interview to The Athletic. In the interview, he basically says, if I'm not going to be part of what's going on with the Leafs, I would like to be traded someplace. I still think I have something left, to go to a contender, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Fast forward to Tuesday, after this story comes out, he's already in the American Hockey League, and they've put him on waivers. So what that means, to my mind, what that means is, okay, here you go, Brooks. If anybody wants you, they're more than free to claim you. Problem is, there's 4.5 million reasons why they're not going to.
Right.
Now, that doesn't preclude the possibility of a team who is looking for a veteran guy, and maybe the Leafs retaining up to 50% of his salary to get something back. But he really hasn't shown in most of this season in the AHL. He had an injury, but he really hasn't shown anything that says this guy doesn't belong in the American Hockey League. Seth Griffith is a borderline AHL, NHL player who's been with 3 teams this year, and he's dominating the American Hockey League right now with the Marlies. And he looks like he's should be given another shot at the NHL. Brooks Laich is 32 or 33 years old. I think he's at the end of it, and I think he's just
a proud guy. I think the wheels came off, and he's one of those fast guys where the legs just stop moving as fast. We saw that a year ago. I don't think there's anything wrong with what the Leafs are doing or not doing here, and I think for him to push the issue probably just means he wants to get the hell out of the American Hockey League.
Yeah, and I don't blame him, but I think if there was any interest I mean, frankly, he was a salary dump last year.
Right.
And, they took Daniel Winnick because they thought Daniel Winnick was a quicker, probably better defensive player than him. They dumped over $2 million in a year on on his contract, gave the Leafs a second-round pick and Connor Carrick to take that contract on, and the Leafs didn't even give Laich a chance in the NHL this year. After training camp, he was sent down to the Marlies, and he's been there ever since. And I would be shocked if even at $2.25 million, which would be his salary if they retained 50%, if anybody was interested. But we'll see. I hope for his sake, because he wants to continue his career, I hope for his sake that there's a team out there that either files a claim or they express his interest and Lou Lamoriello can trade him. But I would seriously doubt it.
Now, they did say on Hockey Central that Julian Melchiori was coming up.
For the Jets?
Yes.
Yeah, well, because Trouba is suspended for 2 games.
That's an interesting thing because, he's a pretty good player. He I don't think he's much more than your just decent skating, puck moving defenseman.
Well, we have a minor trade here.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Canadians and Carolina Hurricanes. Habs acquire Keegan Lowe, son of Kevin Lowe, for Philip Samuelson.
That's interesting. So you're trading a Lowe for a Samuelson. They're both second-generation guys.
Yeah.
Who's getting Samuelson?
Carolina is.
Yeah, I like that better. I think Keegan Lowe is a decent player, and he has toughness. I just don't know if he's strong enough for the NHL. That's the problem with Keegan Lowe. And I think Samuelson's really just in need of a break. I've seen some pretty good play out of him. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So there's still trying to get now. Bob McKenzie came out and said there's nothing going on with the with Radko Gudas has absolutely not been traded. Reports where he left practice with his sticks, fueling speculation. Frank Saravelli then jumped in and said something as well. That doesn't matter. But then,
of course it matters. What do you mean it doesn't matter?
Just kidding. All right. Anyway, he said the same thing. Nothing to Radko Gudas being on the move. I'm told he left with his sticks, creating speculation, but he hasn't been traded. So he said it by putting the subject at the end instead of in the beginning. But besides that, the predicate remains the same. He has not been traded.
Are you really gonna go full out English teacher on him?
Wow.
Wow.
Why not? And I tweeted out in related news, Jacob Voracek is wearing a plain black hat. So there you have it. Go with that as much as you can. So anyway, we are in that world. This is the time. This is the time of year that we see this kind of stuff. People's houses go for sale. On July 1st, people leave with their sticks at the trade deadline. I love the reports of someone walked onto the ice, whispered into the goalie's mask, and that goalie skated off. When in actuality, that goalie.
And I got to tell you, if I were in the NHL, what they're probably saying is, Russ, your mother's called like 3 times. Can you just pick up the phone?
Right. No, this is the fun time of year. So, you got to get ready for this kind of stuff. This happens all the time nowadays. And it will be that way for a while. I mean, the funny thing is with Hextall in the Flyers thing, there has been very, very, very few leaks, right? So really almost nothing has come out of there.
Well, that's the thing. Unless I hear Ron Hextall say it's not a deal, I don't necessarily trust anybody's, well, I'm hearing from the club it's not a deal, like you said, because we don't hear that at all.
No, and I'll tell you something that's interesting is the text I got back about this from somebody at the team was not the same as assuring me that he had not been traded. I can read it to you right now. It was here it is. It's funny. I haven't heard that yet. That was the response. So
that's what I'm saying. I think it's premature to even say, well, whoever's telling them that, we don't hear anything. So no offense to the guys reporting on it, I ain't buying it.
Someone on Twitter says, you must really like those sticks. I mean, I leave all practices with my sticks too. I'm afraid they'll get stolen. So hey.
Yeah, but this is the pros. Like, who's going to steal them?
Worth more.
All right, let's move on.
It's not like pickup hockey where you have to worry where your wallet is.
Steve Yzerman comes out today and 3 hours ago. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I like that one. That's a throwback, Russ.
Yes.
To what's his name? We won't say. To a celebrity we once played hockey with who lost his wallet. Let's just say that.
Yes.
Lightning's GM Steve Yzerman says we're competing for a playoff spot, so so if I'm going to move people, I'm not giving people away here. If it makes sense, I'll do it. If it doesn't make sense, I'm not. It's not a fire sale. So
we knew Steve Yzerman would dig in with that attitude. I even said that like a week ago. Like, you knew this was coming.
Right. Okay. So
Steve Yzerman
the demand for a first-round pick for Brian Boyle is proof that Florida is selling medicinal marijuana, because it's bizarre. Because I mean, Brian Boyle is an effective center. He's an effective checking center. He's a big guy. He's not a scorer, and unless he's playing, I think the Montreal Canadiens is the team that he is the number of. He's an average center in the playoffs. Yeah, if you want a third, fourth line center, fine. You're not getting a first round pick for Brian Boyle. I don't care how much you sell him and pump him up. It's not happening. I can understand why Yzerman is saying what he's saying and doing what he's doing. He's trying to increase the value of his players, but be realistic. If anything, if Michael Stone, and I'm not comparing the two, but in a position where there is very few options, if Michael Stone gets a third round pick, that's about what you're going to get for Brian Boyle.
You know, it's funny. When Brian Boyle, do you remember who drafted him?
Los Angeles. It was a first round pick
as a defenseman. I covered him in the East Regionals for the NCAAs as a defenseman, and it wasn't working out for him as a defenseman, and they moved him to forward. I mean, he's really had an interesting career. I got to give him that.
Sure.
Here's some news today, though. That would be Steven Stamkos skating with.
That's a cardboard cutout. That's not Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, the Lightning. I know. There he is.
Yeah, but they said he's skating very gingerly. You know, we're 6 weeks out from the end of the regular season. Is it possible that he comes back before the 6 weeks? Sure.
Of course it is, because it's Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, and because they're in.
What, is he wearing blue tights underneath that?
No, but I mean, last time he had an injury, he came back before we thought he would too.
Yeah, right. And he got back last year for Game 7, remember, which was pretty.
Well, to me, this is almost.
That's what I meant by last time.
This is a symbol of the desperation that the Lightning are under right now.
Yeah,
right.
Because.
Having an attitude there, Russ. I'll say this much: I was talking about the Olympics when that was the remarkable recovery that he gave. Remember, that was no one.
Okay, all right.
There you
but this is a symbol of the desperation of the Lightning, because if they were in a playoff spot right now, more than likely Stamkos would be taking his time, and he probably would come back in the first round of the playoffs. Now that they're 6 points out of a playoff spot, not to say he's rushing back, but they need him to come back to give him that extra boost. But think of this. They're 6 points out. They have to jump over 4 teams.
Right.
Good luck.
Right. That's going to be tough. I do want to float this to Eck. I don't know if he's here or anything, but the more I think about it, and again, it would require some finagling because Rick Nash would have to agree to go to this team. I still think there's a chance that Rick Nash would go to the Leafs. I think if they wanted a big winger for Austin Matthews, Babcock likes the way Nash plays. He had him in the Olympics. If they did a Nash for Van Riemsdyk swap, that to me that would make sense.
That's an interesting one.
Because Nash is more of a kind of player that Babcock likes.
Right, for sure.
And Van Riemsdyk has always wanted to play for the Rangers. The Rangers would certainly take him. They would save salary, and that would enable them to sign Shattenkirk in the offseason if they moved Klein.
True. And then
I would ask Mike what he thinks, but he's frozen.
More Shattenkirk stuff came up yesterday too. I got a text from Jan Levine, our Rangers writer, who said that they have enough space now to sign Shattenkirk.
And nobody else.
That they project to have $10 million in cap space at the deadline. So no, to fit him in right now, that they would have $10 million in cap space at the deadline. I was trying to figure out.
They have 10. The Rangers have $10 million.
Projected of $10 million in cap space at the deadline. The Rangers would not have to clear any cap space to fit in Shattenkirk. This is from Jan.
For this year, they $10 million this year, really?
Yeah, they would project to have that. That's what he says. So I have to look into it. But yep, that would be
wow.
So I mean
wait. Say that again.
Jan Levine texted me. Our Rangers guy said the Rangers would not have to clear any cap space to fit in Shattenkirk now. They project to have $10 million in cap space at the deadline.
Okay, that's not. I mean, that's not what. That's not what the various sites are saying regarding their cap space. They're saying their cap space is about $2.2 million.
You know, here's the thing. No, actually, I see where he's getting it from. Cap Friendly has them at $8 million current cap space, deadline space $10 million, but I don't know if that's right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. We have to look into it. Look into it some more. But
I'm just saying, Mike, what did you think about a Nash for Van Riemsdyk swap?
I don't think it'll happen.
Okay.
I think the only way I can see Nash, because I mean this is taking advantage of the sizable cap opening that the Leafs have with all those players being placed on long-term injury.
Yeah.
The only way I see that a deal for Nash to the Leafs being possible is if it frees up JVR to be traded someplace else for a defenseman. So basically Nash would be a JVR replacement. I don't think they're trading JVR for another forward. I think he's the key to them getting a blue liner. Now, if you're talking about a Brady Shea type of deal, then there might be something to that, but not 1-for-1 for Nash. No way.
We'll see. I'm going to look into that a little bit, actually, because there's just some sense in that. Now, I have heard more since we talked last night regarding Matt Duchene and Montreal rumors, which leads to, and I'm really starting to believe that Galchenyuk is in play with this. And I was told, I talked to somebody for a while who said to me, yeah, basically, the idea here is, they've got a couple more games before the trade deadline. Can Galchenyuk, step up and show that he is the true first line center, or are they going to have to really think about this like first line swap, with basically first line center swap with Duchene for Galchenyuk plus another aspect of that deal. But that might be the best that Colorado is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
To get because usually the way these trades work is the best player wins, right? Like, it can be one for three or whatever, and it's hard to say. Usually it's very rare that the prospects in the draft pick overtake the guy, the big player is, right? So I'm starting to wonder about that. Is that the best Colorado can do if they can indeed get Galchenyuk up in this deal?
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad.
No,
you buy yourself 3 or 4 years in terms of the age difference of the player. The thing is that you're more than likely on a new contract going to have to pay Galchenyuk what you're paying Duchene right now. I mean, that's the projection. Coming off a 30-goal year, even if he has a disappointing year this year going in his contract year, he's probably going to demand in the neighborhood of $5 to $5.5 to $6 million on a long-term contract because you're buying out unrestricted years. So,
right.
To me, if Colorado is ready to move on from Duchene, if they want a change of just a change of the makeup of the team, getting Galchenyuk to go along with McKinnon, to go along with Rantanen, and maybe keeping Landeskog. I mean, I think that's a significant change. The thing is, though, and the one thing is, Galchenyuk and Duchene have the same problem. They're supposed to be centers, and some people question whether they actually are. Duchene has played the wing. He has succeeded on the wing. Galchenyuk has been tried how many times at center by the Canadians and has been bounced to a lower line or bounced to the wing because, it was Michel Therrien, but, we've only had one game worth of example here, but Galchenyuk was moved off the number 1 line by Claude Julien in his first game. So that's an indicator to me that, either he's not getting the message or he's just not capable of being a number 1 center in the NHL.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. I may have found what's going on with the Rangers cap.
Okay.
They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players, including Derek Brassard, which, if I'm not mistaken, the Rangers paid his signing bonus before the trade, right?
Yes.
So the 8 players with signing bonuses, I don't think that's counted in some of those cap websites because they're pretty sizable. If you go down a list here,
Right.
$1 million for Stahl, $1 million for Girardi, $1 million for Kreider, $250 for Miller, $500 for Kevin Hayes, $92,000 for Shea, $92,000 for VC, $92,000 for Buchnevich, and also the $2 million for Brassard.
Right, and that's inclusive in inclusive in their overall cap hit.
Right,
So,
and I think it's not inclusive on some of those readings, and I think that's the problem.
right, they see that. I mean, that's very similar to, because remember, like Jonathan Bernier was traded from the Leafs to Anaheim after July 1st. He had, I believe, a $2.1 million, $2 million signing bonus.
Right.
Anaheim takes the $4.1 million cap hit, but they're only paying $2 million or $2.1 million in real salary because the Leafs paid the bonus.
Right.
So all they're doing is taking the additional cap hit. In this instance, that might be what's going on. And if that's the case, they don't have as much workable room as cap friendly is indicating. I mean, I could be wrong, but
nobody knows for 100%. I'm just saying this could be a reason. Yeah. And actually, NBC's got a $2.8 million performance bonus, which I guess could
doesn't count until next year.
Oh, next year. Okay.
We heard him next year. Yeah, they would have to keep an eye on that, though. I mean, because that could be a problem, especially with next year if the cap stays flat.
Right.
Everyone's saying that could be that.
So they've got a, it's not a straight salary thing in New York. They've got a lot of interesting things.
Well, let's just say this to play it safe. And I've mentioned the name before, but if they're going to make a significant move, like we were talking about yesterday, maybe they move out a Klein, maybe they move out Tanner Glass, maybe they have to move out Nash. Let's just say that they're probably not going to be able to take on a big salary unless they move somebody out. And there are very few teams out there, New Jersey, possibly Toronto, obviously with the cap room they've opened up, that can take a salary on for the end of the, for a year or for less, and to create room for another team. That's why doing that is going to cost a premium to those teams.
Yes.
I think that's great. So Bobby Ryan has a broken finger. It's been confirmed. 4 to 6 weeks. Stone is also hurt still from.
But they made it clear it was not a concussion. It's a neck injury.
Neck injury, right? Hoffman's out.
And Hoffman's out as well. Yeah, so that's
questionable. There's all this stuff from Darren Dreger.
Those are three pretty important guys.
Yeah. And that's not surprising to me that this team is really pushing hard for Anthony Duclair. Like that's what I keep hearing, that Ottawa is pushing hard for Duclair. The Flyers have also been linked to Duclair a couple of times recently as well. I'm not fully thinking that's where they're going, but I know that that's the kind of player that they would make a move on if they could.
No, okay. To my mind, Duclair is not on the par of those players in the sense that to replace them. I mean, it's I think it's more the fact that they can get him relatively cheap and he can fill in as a stopgap, but he's not as good as Stone or Hoffman or Ryan. I mean, maybe could be down the line, but right now he's not.
I don't know.
It's close though.
I mean,
when he's at his best, he's right in there. Right now, he's still young, so he's not always at his best. He's inconsistent.
We're basing that on 3/4 of one season.
Yeah,
or on one season. I mean, I'm just saying this year.
Dynamic. I mean, he's a very dynamic player. So you see incredible skills there. Whether or not he can hone them in, whether or not he gets the right teaching, a lot's going to have to do with coaching with him. It's going to have to do a lot.
Right. And if I'm a team that needs offense, I'm willing to roll the dice on Anthony Duclair. And Ottawa is one of the teams that I think does need offense. I'm just saying I don't think that there's a long-term aspect to him because he's young and he's got a lot of talent. But what I'm saying is Hoffman, Stone, Ryan, they're all top 6 forwards. I think it's up in the air whether Duclair is a top 6 forward simply because there isn't a lot of history there. It's 1 year. So it's a little bit of a risk.
Yeah, but I think he has those abilities.
He does.
Because he's got the speed. Here's the thing. I mean, he's always provided offense. And so now a couple of times, because nobody's willing to say why a guy gets moved out, we don't know why, but so far in his young NHL career, in 140 games, he's got 60 points. Considering he doesn't get any power play time, he doesn't play with top players, those are pretty good numbers. Now, I don't know what the precipitous drop was other than Domi being out in Arizona. It had to be more than that. And that's what's hurt his numbers. But, he did just have 20 goals in 2015-16. I do think he could create offense. I don't think there's any question.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I'm a big fan. It really is. It's impressed me. Talked about Landeskog and the Ducks yesterday as well, but I still hear that that's possible. And I do think that, and then also that just answering the Claude Giroux rumors, which is just that there's absolutely nothing to it.
There's nothing to Claude Giroux rumors. Come on.
No, I know. I just have to mention it.
What about this?
We're officially getting into the silly season.
Yes.
The Flyers are playing badly, and Giroux is playing badly, and that's the issue. The issue is the thing about Claude Giroux that you always have to think about in the back of your mind is he healthy? Because he will play hurt.
Right.
And he's not playing as well as he should right now. You could sit there and argue, but he also is a guy who will play hurt all the time.
Right.
So that's
Here's a question. Would the Flyers trade Steve Mason now that it appears like he's a backup?
Yeah, that's a big question. And it's very curious what they're doing with this thing, because if they want to trade Mason, you would think they would play him a little bit. There's something happened in that room. I mean,
but he's got value. There's no question somebody would take a Steve Mason.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they would trade him. I don't think there's any question they would trade him. I mean, the question is, what do they want for him?
Right.
It can't be that much because he's, you're looking at a backup goalie.
I could think of two teams right off the bat who Steve Mason could help right away, and that's the Boston Bruins as a backup to Rask, because it's an expiring contract, and the Calgary Flames.
Yep.
I think Calgary's a good bet. I could also see him in St. Louis.
St. Louis wouldn't be out of the possibility either, really.
And I think that's a good bet.
You're right, but since Yo took over, Jake Allen and to a lesser extent Carter Hutton have played well. I watched the St. Louis Florida game last night, and Jake Allen played really, really good. So I think maybe they're prepared to cut Allen a little slack and let him play out the year here, not bring in somebody to sort of undercut him, and then maybe, depending on what they do for the rest of the season and into the playoffs, if they make the playoffs, then make a determination with the goaltending market so fluid in the summer.
So the last time Mason played was February 9th, but there was the layoff. But still, it's a long time. His last win was January 25th.
Yeah, no, I mean that's January 25th. You're almost a month out now. That's got to be concerning. I think at the end of the day, you're going to see. The fact that the other thought that comes to play here is that Neuwirth is possibly being showcased, right? That they really feel like they could trade.
I don't think they're in a position to showcase him right now. I think they really are trying to make the playoffs, so I don't think he's being showcased. That's just me.
No, I agree with you. I agree with that completely. So,
I mean, we're talking about a team right now that's 2 points, I believe, 2 points out of the playoff spot. Right. You're gonna play the guys like Streit and Delzato.
Yes.
Maybe showcasing them, but they're top. They're your two of your top six, so you're going to keep playing them. But you have to be playing your best goaltender at this point.
No, I think that's unquestionably true. I do agree with you.
3 points. They're 3 points out.
3 points out. Not playing well at all, of course, but that's neither here nor there. Someone pointed out to me that Dylan Larkin's ice time has been going down in Detroit consistently this year. All right,
what? That whole team is a mess right now, and I don't think it's Jeff Blashill's fault, but I just think the makeup of that team is bad. And so if you're going to tell me he's having a sophomore slump, I'm not even – most guys do, but I'm not sure that that's the issue with him. I do think it's just – because when I see him play, he looks great.
Yeah.
But clearly, because they're so desperate for wins – they're doing a lot of jostling there, and I think he's become a victim of that.
I mean, there's no question that, to my mind, that the 25-year playoff streak is over with.
Yeah.
That the foundation of that team right now is crumbling. Zetterberg is still one of their better players, and he's 36 years old. I mean, you've got a couple good, really young potential building blocks in Larkin and in Mantha. But
Mantha's their third leading scorer, Mike. Not that that's bad. It's good for Mantha, but it's bad for that team.
Right. I mean, you've had what, dead money on their payroll with Johan Franzen for years, and their defense has never recovered from the retirement of Lidstrom. Their goaltending is average. So all these things. This is something that Ken Holland is not used to, because they've sort of replenished that team, with their savvy drafting of Swedish players in the low rounds and just finding players out of nowhere. And, that's still possible. But right now it just looks like they're going to go through 2 or 3 years where they're going to need to draft in the upper echelon of the first round, get some prospects, build up the organization again. And I don't know, that the thing I'm wondering is, do we know whether Ken Holland wants to go through a rebuild in Detroit without Mike Ilitch?
Not with a new building. They're not going to do it with a new building.
Yeah, I think Ken Holland's going to stick around for a while still, talking to people around there. But and I think that I don't think they have to rebuild necessarily. I don't agree that they are completely falling apart. I think what's happening is
this season I think they have fallen apart.
Oh, yeah, this season they have fallen apart. But I think what's happening is you're looking at a team that has good young players that are coming. But a team that, in general, the Red Wings have managed to cheat death so many times because the good young players have gotten good just in time for the old players that were leaving, right? And in this case, they just are maybe a year or two late. Like, that's what's happening to me. Like, that this is they still have good players coming, like they always have had, but these guys are a little late, right?
But they're still lacking superstars. Like, even in their system, look, Anthony Mantha is going to be a terrific player. Dylan Larkin is a terrific player, but they don't have the next Datsuk. They don't have the next Zetterberg. They are lacking superstars.
And the funny thing is, in retrospect of what happened last late June and July, the team that was most devastated by Steven Stamkos re-signing with Tampa Bay was not Buffalo and was not Toronto. It was the Detroit Red Wings, because they were really depending on getting in that sweepstakes and throwing, massive money at him to come in and take over for Datsuk. And
not to do a pizza pun, but a lot of dough.
Right.
Very nice.
Very, very cheesy, Russ.
Yeah. Yes, very cheesy. All right. Let's talk about the Panthers for a second here, because the Florida Panthers they just went on a 5-game winning streak on the road, sweeping through California. They are now, as we sit here, they're in 3rd place in the division.
Yep.
In a playoff spot. They're looking solid. I mean, they're playing really good hockey. I mean, they got these guys back now that were hurt most of the year. They've been up and down so much this year. It seems like this season must feel like it's 10 seasons long for the Florida Panthers.
It has to. I need to see another 5 games of this before I'm fully on board, though.
Yeah. No,
Not that I wasn't at the beginning of the year. I thought they were a playoff team, but then I saw something else, and then they had the injuries, and now I still need to see them get back to where they were. I don't think they're quite back. I mean, they're in the race. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. They're in it, but
they had to win
another 5 games.
They had to win 8 of 9,
right?
Just to get a point ahead of Toronto and tied with Boston. So
claw their way back in. Yeah.
It's a remarkable feat, and and obviously the comeback of Huberdeau from the Achilles injury and Barkov from his injury has been a key. But I'm just wondering whether this team is what it is, or they're going to do something before the deadline to add to that. I mean, they've signed so many players to long-term contracts. I don't know if they have the financial wherewithal to really do it, but you would think. I mean, now that the momentum, and this is clearly a second half team. Whether now them, the Islanders, the Bruins, all these teams that are within 1 or 2 points of a wild card spot in the East are going to go crazy in terms of trying to add something at the deadline. I think it's possible. I mean, I think now things are going to such a positive track. They might do it.
Possible. I think they will. I think they will be buyers. They have shown a history of being pretty aggressive when they're in the race. And they've remember this is the team that went after Yager a couple years ago at the deadline. They are very much they're very much in it, and the division is so wide open. I mean, their biggest challenge, is Boston and Toronto obviously are challenging them right now. But
how much future are they going to mortgage to stay in it.
No, I don't. I mean, I think a draft pick or so they could. I mean, they have good young players, so they could perhaps give a draft pick away to get that one player. You know, I don't know who that player would be. Is it like a Patrick Eaves type player?
It's going to be somebody like that.
Maybe. I actually think it would be a defenseman.
It could be a defenseman. Yep. I mean, you would think they would. You think they would look in that direction? I mean, they could get in with the Oduya concept. I mean, that's something that they do like, that kind of player.
Yeah.
I would really be, what's really fascinating to me is over the last, I would say, 2 days, how things have changed. And I bring this up because I think Florida, this is another player that they could go for it. How things have changed with people's feelings around the league about Evander Kane. And I know that we could sit there and, we shake our heads or whatever. And, and I feel the same way. Like we had Peter on and it's like, well, okay. But, at the end of the day.
Well, I'm not shaking my head about, I mean, the thing is this is the question that's being asked openly in Buffalo right now. Yeah. Buffalo, you're 3 points out of a playoff spot. You've played a few more games. So I don't know how realistic you are in the playoff race, but they've played better of late, and now Kane has been their hottest scorer. He's over 20 goals. I think he scored like 7 goals in the last 7 games, something like that. I mean, and in the media in Buffalo, it's like, do we sell or do we stay? Right. And the dilemma for the Sabres is you move him unless you are ready to commit to him long term, meaning re-signing him in the summer with a year left in his contract. And I don't get one inkling that the Sabres organization is willing to extend Evander Kane. But the thing is, I think that there's also a buy-in here by Tim Murray to try to make the playoffs. So maybe for cosmetic reasons, they keep Kane until the summer and they just hope he stays out of trouble so they can move him in the summer.
They're probably going to have to. I don't see how they can trade him now.
Yeah, I mean, unless someone comes in and the other concept is if you think he is just what he is, and he's going to have a good season. He's having a good season right now because he's playing for a contract eventually and he's going to do what he can. Then this is the highest value you're going to get for him, right? So you can sit back and you can say, okay, this is it. I mean, he is right now. He's got as many even strength goals as anyone in the league. He's really just completely taken off, and it's fascinating that they don't give him power play time.
Well, Russ, don't you think that, I mean, like I said, barring something unforeseen, barring another incident, if he continues this pace or close to this pace and say finishes with 25 to 30 goals, that he'll have value in the summer. He'll
have value still.
Yeah, because he's still got a year left.
He's got size. He can skate. If he shows that he stays out of trouble and he's scoring, somebody will want him. There is another little bit of breaking news, not big news, but right. Pierre LeBrun did an article, and basically Blake Wheeler brought up the point that we brought up, I guess, a few days ago. Eck in general was Malkin not getting suspended. He was like, hey, after the Trouba hit, I felt like that. He basically Wheeler was saying, I felt like that was the same hit, and he got nothing.
Actually, Kerry Fraser has something on it too. Out there, I saw as well. He agrees with that concept too. He thinks Malkin should have been suspended as well. He thinks that they, that they got it wrong. And it is one of those.
Yep.
It does make the NHL look bad because it's what everybody expects. It's what everybody expects, that we're going to sit back and we're going to not give the superstar that. I don't know. It's rough. It's rough, and I think he could have very easily been suspended. Although the other question with Malkin is the same kind of thing that people. I heard this argument too. The same thing with Lindros. That Malkin is just so big that when he hits people, he's going to hit.
Right. Well, that was the excuse that I brought up that day. That's the excuse we hear, and it's BS.
And that was what you heard with Lindros. You heard with Scott Stevens. You hear this all the time.
It's bull crap. I
agree with you. I think you still have to be responsible, and they know. I mean, these players are big, but guess what? They've always played against smaller players. They understand. They understand in their whole life. They're used to hitting smaller players. They know what they.
Wheeler's point is he got hit without the puck. Like, to me, that's always the worst thing in this game is when someone is killing you and you don't even have the puck.
Right. I agree with that. Completely agree with that. I was looking and. I'm working on my thing that I did last year, which was incredibly accurate. I remember was perfectly exactly 100% right. My predictor that goes through the end of the year that tells you. Oh yeah. Last year,
You're 1 year.
No. Because I've been fine tuning the system. I've been sitting with Excel. I've been adding things in there, and I'm telling you something. One year is that Tampa's not out of it. And it's funny because of the schedule that they have. Now without Stamkos coming back into it, even I still think that I think when I'm in Florida, I'm looking down. I'm still looking down at Tampa.
So what's the mathematical equation for Tampa to make it?
They'll have to wait till after the trade deadline when it's all revealed.
Oh, come on, see, stop. Just stop.
Basically,
my math teacher. If I asked my math teacher what is the answer to this quadratic equation, she would give me the answer right then and there. If not, I would draw a very funny picture of her and pass it around behind her back.
You hate math, I know that. So
mathematically, you're correct. They're still in it.
They're in it, and also because of the schedule that they play and the teams that they play. They play the teams they've got to catch, and that always helps, So
I want to see the math.
We'll see the math. You hate math, so I was going to show you the math. Anyway, I'm telling you, that's the team to look out for.
Okay.
We got lots of stuff going on.
Rumor chart.
I can tell people that if they go to Sportsology today, I did put out my version 1.0 for the draft. So I did my top 30. It is not a mock draft. Just letting you know.
Right.
It's not a mock draft. And I didn't do 31. I only do 30. Now, I will extend it to 40 or 45 over time, but that's it.
Right. Okay. All right, let's go.
And you still have Nolan Patrick #1.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to go to – I'm trying to get this up to work, this thing. But I'm just going to have to read it to you here for a second. So let's talk about Patrick Eaves for a second here from the rumor chart, because we mentioned Patrick Eaves, and his name he's rising in the standings. I mean, I don't know. I just saw someone put out their top trade bait guys, and he's actually climbed above Landeskog on some people's charts, which is crazy.
That $1 million salary and the fact that he's a UFA is very attractive.
Right, he really is. You're getting goals and goals for almost nothing, right? So he becomes extremely.
Yeah.
To me, it's I've got 3 teams basically besides Dallas, and right now, and I've heard 4 teams, I should say. I've got Toronto, Minnesota, Montreal, and Columbus. I think this is somebody the Maple Leafs are very much in on. I don't have any question about that. But this is one of the players, and it makes sense for them, right? Why wouldn't you be in on them?
Because they're not interested in giving up future assets for a rental. That's why. I mean, and it's very possible it'll happen, and if it does happen, I'll have egg in my face. I just don't think the Leafs are trading for a rental.
But it depends what you mean by assets and how much you really have to give up.
Can we do something for trade deadline day? That if this doesn't happen, Mike actually puts egg on his face. Like, I'd like to see some of these things come true.
I'll do that Jimmy Fallon routine, Russ. It's like you have a hard-boiled egg and a regular uncooked egg, and I'll crack it over my head. And
perfect. I think we're doing visual show here.
We should do that.
Otherwise, it's just talk.
But okay, but the thing is that what will it take for Patrick Eaves? Well, here you're talking about from a contending team. It could be a first-round pick because the guy's scoring 21 goals, but more than likely it's a second-round pick. I just don't think that. I mean, if the Leafs like Patrick Eaves, which is possible, if they think he's a good player, then they will sign him over the summer. They will not give up young assets to get him. They want to see their young players tested by the crucible of the playoff race, and I think that's where they're going.
Yes, but if it's March 1st and they're 2 points in it, they're going to have a little bit of a change of course there. I think.
I don't think so, Russ.
I think they will. I think that changes a lot.
I think what that might do is it might prevent them from trading a guy like Roman Polak for a draft pick.
Well, definitely would prevent that, but I think then they might be buyers.
Yeah.
Not big buyers, but I think they would be. Here's the thing. I mean, I know that they had this plan, and we even talked about this 2 years ago, that, hey, if they ever get competitive at some point, they may have to turn around on this plan. Mm-hmm. If they're 2 or 4 points in the playoffs, they're probably going to turn around on that plan to some degree because they still do have a chance to get playoffs in that building to make money. And at the end of the day, even though they're committed to rebuilding, they do like making money.
Anything's possible.
They like making money, and they also want to show the players there that they're doing everything they can to win. I mean, that's another thing that and players who are there right now and are for the first time ever, in Toronto, you have the players who are going to be there for a while. Like this is not a situation where in the past you've always had, these players aren't going to be there anymore, right? And but no, this is a situation where you actually do have.
I'm laughing at your screen. Sorry
about that. I'll fix that.
I think it's a given. I think that the young Leaf players realize that this organization is doing everything that they possibly can to improve and to be good, and that goes further than just the next 24 games. That goes the next 3 or 4 years, and I think that they're not going to sacrifice the long-term goal for the short-term goal. I think if they make the playoffs with Matthews, with Kadri, with the kids that they have, great, it's phenomenal. Then they have a chance of getting actual playoff experience and learning from it. If they give up something and they don't do it, then they've wasted assets. So that's why I continue.
But again,
we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone just texted me a rumor that Montreal may be looking at Desharnais plus a pick for Patrick Sharp. I'll have to look into that a little bit as we go after the show here.
I don't think Desharnais has that much value.
That would be a pretty good pick.
Desharnais is the salary dump.
It's a pretty good pick. It would have to be like I would think a second or a third.
Okay. It would have to be a couple seconds or a first. I mean, Sharp is one of the best rentals on this market. Stanley Cup experience, somebody that Bergevin knows from Chicago. Desharnais doesn't have a lot of value right now. The way he's played in Montreal over the last couple of years, I would think it would have to be a significantly high draft pick.
Mike, I'm going to let you be GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs for just a second, because that's really, with all the experience you have, that's probably where they would hire you for just a second. Like if somebody goes to the bathroom, if Shanahan had to go to the bathroom and you had to watch the phones, he would literally say, "Mike, you could be the GM for a second." Well, here's your. Okay. While he's in the bathroom, the phone rings and you get an offer. And it's for Eaves, and it would be Kapanen and a third-round pick. Would you make that trade?
Not a chance in hell.
See, I don't know. I would do it, and then when Shanahan came back, I'd be like, "Look, you put me in charge."
Kapanen has the ability to be in the Leafs lineup next year. He played that well in the American Hockey League. Patrick Eaves is a rental.
You don't know that he might re-sign there next year.
But if he would re-sign there, he will sign there in the summer, and you don't have to give up Kapanen.
Except you might go further in the playoffs with Eaves.
Again, I don't think they're making moves that mean something short term.
Well, Kapanen's a good player, but he's not a superstar.
No, but he's. I think he's a top 9 guy.
He's a top 9 guy, sure. And so is Eaves. Like if you re-sign Eaves, you have. He's not an old top 9 guy.
We're talking about Patrick Eaves, who up until this year, where he scored 21 goals, the first year he played with Ottawa, he had 20 goals. Since then, I think he scored in double figures twice or 3 times. He's a defensive.
He's also gotten jostled around. I mean, here's the end of the day. He would have pretty good players to play with. He's not a bad player to stick around if they traded for him. That's what I'm pointing out.
He's ideally a defensive forward.
When he's healthy, he's a 20-goal scorer. I mean, he's just been. Right. I mean, honestly, he's not that he's inconsistent. He's just been injured a lot.
And when Kasperi Kapanen comes up next year, he's not going to be a 20-goal scorer. You know that.
Here's the difference, Mike, that you're missing on this thing is that there is a benefit to getting a player in ahead of the UFA day. Like,
correct.
If you pick him up now, not only can you extend him sooner, but you can also give him an idea of what it's like to play for your team. And say he comes in, your team on a playoff run and goes 1 or 2 rounds. Now Patrick really wants to play with Toronto instead of going to play someplace else.
I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying that looking at what they're doing, to me, it would sort of be a waste of a move to trade draft picks and a prospect who probably
just 1 pick and 1 prospect.
Yeah, I don't think it's a move that they'll make.
Okay.
And if I was GM, I would not make it.
You were GM for a second and you failed. All right.
Time will tell. We'll be back again tomorrow, folks. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. I'm going to be looking into this Duchene rumor with Montreal, and I will be updating the blog and the rumor chart this afternoon. Have a good day. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey.